The film commences by introducing us to a young man named Bong. Bong possesses remarkable culinary talents and holds the distinction of being the youngest chef at the Blue House, which serves as the official residence of the South Korean Prime Minister. His life takes an unexpected turn when he discovers that the house is hosting a dinner party in honor of a Chinese ambassador. This particular ambassador has a pronounced sensitivity to fish bones, and Bong is tasked with preparing a delectable fish dish devoid of any bones. Bong diligently adheres to this directive and promptly embarks on the preparations. As night falls, the dinner is served to the Chinese ambassador. Tragically, the envoy's dining experience takes a drastic turn when he encounters a hook in the fish dish. This development places Bong in a precarious situation as the mansion is scoured by several guards in pursuit of him. In the subsequent scene, a pair of police officers arrives at Bong's apartment to investigate the incident. Aware of the trouble he is in, Bong attempts to evade capture by making a daring escape through the balcony, with the officers hot on his trail. However, Bong's escape endeavor takes an unexpected and unfortunate turn as he plunges into a swimming pool below, colliding with the pool's bottom. Strangely, he continues to plummet as a woman approaches him underwater and plants a kiss on his lips. Upon regaining consciousness, Bong finds himself in a bewildering and unfamiliar room. What startles him even more is the discovery that he has transformed into a woman when he gazes into a nearby mirror. Initially attributing the experience to a dream caused by the fall, Bong embarks on a quest to comprehend the unfolding events. As he ventures outside the room, he is met by numerous women who bow and address him as Your Highness. Bong is taken aback by this inexplicable situation. However, the realization that something extraordinary has transpired dawns upon him when he experiences a peculiar sensation in his lower region. He has lost his male anatomy. Horrified by this abrupt change, Bong's initial belief is that he has fallen victim to human trafficking involving a sex change operation. Yet, as he takes in the unfamiliar surroundings, Bong gradually comprehends that he has undergone a journey through time. This revelation sends him into a state of shock, and he is subsequently brought back to the palace. The following day, Bong awakens and learns from a maid that he now inhabits the body of Kim So-young, a royal ward in the Joseon dynasty, specifically in the year 1851. To make matters more perplexing, Bong discovers that Kim is scheduled to marry the king and ascend to the position of queen in a matter of days. The maid also discloses that Kim's body had been discovered in the palace's lake after an enigmatic accident. Fortunately, palace guards retrieved her and returned her to the palace. This information leads Bong to formulate a theory that both his and Kim's spirits have exchanged places. His ticket to returning home, he deduces, lies in the lake. Bong requests the maid's assistance in guiding him to the lake with the intention of jumping in to travel back to the present. However, this plan takes an unexpected turn as he lands on muddy terrain. It emerges that the Grand Queen had issued orders for the palace servants to drain the lake overnight, a measure taken to prevent future incidents of people falling into the water. Disheartened by this turn of events, Bong remains convinced that water is the solution and desperately attempts to immerse himself in any available water source. His efforts even lead him to submerge his head in a pail of water used for cleaning the floors. Regrettably, all his endeavors prove to be in vain. Days pass, and the day of Kim's wedding approaches. Unfamiliar with the customs of the dynasty, Bong, with the assistance of her handmaids, successfully completes the requisite wedding rites. On the wedding night, now occupying the role of the queen, Bong is invited to the king's chambers to share his bed. The notion horrifies her, and she endeavors to render the king unconscious by offering him alcohol. Her ploy proves successful as the king falls into a deep slumber. The following day, Bong awakens with a hangover and is offered a meal. However, she finds the meal unpalatable and conveys her preference for ramen to the royal chef. The term confuses the chef, but he attempts to create the foreign dish based on Bong's instructions. His multiple attempts, however, yield unsatisfactory results. The first attempt is too healthy, while the subsequent tries result in dishes that are either bland or excessively spicy. Frustrated, the chef relinquishes his efforts and challenges Bong to prepare the dish herself. Although she has not attempted cooking since childhood, Bong, recalling her culinary expertise, decides to take matters into her own hands. With determination, Bong enters the royal kitchen and takes up a knife. The maid and other servants, who have low expectations, anticipate a chaotic scene in the kitchen. Much to their astonishment, Bong exhibits remarkable skill, swiftly and precisely cutting the vegetables to the correct size, resulting in the creation of a flawless dish. She serves the ramen in her chambers and enjoys the meal with her right-hand maid. In the kitchen, the royal chef, green with envy, suggests that Bong's culinary creation may merely have an appealing appearance but lack in taste. To test this theory, he samples the leftovers from the pot. His taste buds are met with a revelation. The dish is exceptionally delicious, and he even drops his spoon in astonishment. Following this remarkable culinary feat, Bong has an epiphany. She recognizes that her exceptional cooking skills provide an opportunity to win favor with the royal family. Given that the Grand Queen ordered the lake to be drained, Bong believes that by impressing her with food, she might agree to refill the lake. Bong hurriedly returns to the kitchen, eager to inspect the food prepared for the Grand Queen. However, the jealous royal chef asserts his authority and refuses to allow her to review the meal meant for the Grand Queen. Infuriated by this, Bong challenges him to a speed cooking contest. The royal chef initially declines, but Bong's teasing eventually persuades him to accept the challenge. A servant signals the commencement of the contest, and both competitors take up their knives with determination. The royal chef embarks on a fierce cutting of carrots, but Bong's hands prove to be quicker and more adept as she efficiently slices cucumbers. After several minutes of culinary competition, Bong successfully presents his dish and is the first to ring the bell, securing victory in the contest. The royal chef, in a state of irritation, contends that while speed is significant, a chef's ultimate prowess is measured by the taste of their creation. Bong, exuding confidence, readily concurs with this sentiment and calls upon the royal cuisine inspector to impartially sample both dishes, thereby determining the superior one. The inspector, captivated by the flavor of Bong's cuisine, declares it the superior dish, a decision that promptly elevates her to the role of overseeing the royal kitchen. Bong strategically leverages her newfound position to closely scrutinize the Grand Queen's dietary preferences. She discerns that the Grand Queen is a discerning eater, exacerbated by her recent struggle with a toothache. In light of this insight, Bong sets out to craft a meal tailored to the aristocrat's needs. With swift determination, Bong commences her culinary task by preparing a potato porridge. She initiates the process by pouring milk into the pot and meticulously adding the requisite ingredients while intermittently sampling the mixture. Eventually, the potatoes find their way into the pot, and the dish is garnished with floral toppings to ensure an aesthetically pleasing presentation. Satisfied with the final product, Bong personally delivers the meal to the Grand Queen. The Queen thoroughly enjoys the culinary creation, but astutely points out that the dish isn't without imperfections. The temperature change has caused the perfectly mashed potatoes to clump together, slightly altering the taste. Moreover, some porridge has inadvertently spilled onto the plate's edges, affecting the overall presentation. Disheartened by this feedback, Bong embarks on her journey back to the palace, disheartened by the lack of perfection in her creation. While traveling in her carriage, Bong's mind churns with ideas for an alternative means of delivering food to the Grand Queen. In due course, she formulates a brilliant plan. Bong decides to fashion a cloth and dispatches her maid to convey the fabric along with instructions to the royal engineers. Following Bong's guidance, the engineers construct a special food delivery carriage designed with thorough insulation. Concurrently, Bong prepares a variety of delectable meals and employs servants to deliver them using the newly designed contraption. The Grand Queen warmly receives the hot meals and thoroughly relishes them, leaving no remnants behind. Subsequently, the engineers return to convey the successful implementation of Bong's invention. A few days later, the king orchestrates an expansive banquet, extending invitations to delegates from all corners of the country. However, an unfortunate turn of events occurs as the cooks fall ill on the day of the banquet, leaving the royal kitchen understaffed. Bong keenly observes this predicament and decides to lend her assistance. Sneaking away from the banquet, she stealthily enters the kitchen. Bong quickly discovers that the pantry's supplies have dwindled due to the failure of groceries scheduled for delivery on that day. With limited resources at her disposal, she embarks on a journey of culinary creativity. In the company of her handmaids, she prepares a simple yet innovative dish involving potatoes. Bong ingeniously peels the potatoes and wraps them around sticks, deep frying them to achieve a crisp and crunchy texture. Initially, the banquet guests express dissatisfaction upon sighting the first dish, anticipating a more sophisticated offering befitting a royal event. Nevertheless, their initial skepticism transforms into delight as they partake in the unique culinary creation, their eyes gleaming with approval. Bong continues to showcase her inventive prowess with a second dish that poses a slight challenge due to the absence of meat in the kitchen. Undaunted, she utilizes beans to craft a vegetarian burger, accompanied by tomato relish on the side. Delighted with her creation, Bong dubs it McDonald's, inspired by the contemporary McDonald's. The dish garners immense praise from the guests as they savor the mouth-watering cuisine. For the grand finale, Bong serves a classic jelly dessert with a twist. She inscribes special messages on the jelly sticks, labeling them fortune jelly, offering guests the opportunity to read their fortunes after completing their dessert. The guests not only relish the classic jelly but also engage in lighthearted amusement while perusing their respective fortunes. Despite the initial challenges, the banquet turns out to be a resounding success, largely attributable to Bong's culinary ingenuity. The Grand Queen, who is also in attendance, is deeply impressed by Bong's culinary prowess and extends an invitation for her to make a request. Without hesitation, Bong seizes this opportunity to implore the Grand Queen to replenish the drained lake. The Grand Queen graciously accedes to Bong's request, instructing her servants to commence the process. Unfortunately, given the constraints of the 19th century, advanced machinery is not available to facilitate the task. Consequently, the servants resort to the manual transportation of water, relying on wooden buckets. This approach results in an agonizingly slow and arduous process, as the servants undertake an extensive journey from the town's well to the lake. Bong, increasingly impatient, devises a more efficient method to expedite the process. She instructs the servants to remain stationed in specific locations, establishing a chain through which they can efficiently pass the buckets from one person to the next. The people welcome this innovation, as it streamlines the task, making it more manageable and faster. They persist with determination, while Bong vigilantly oversees the lengthy procedure. Despite the passage of several days, the lake remains unfulfilled. Bong grows weary of waiting, and her desperation mounts. Fortunately, a heavy downpour commences, gradually saturating the lake over time. Overjoyed by this unexpected turn of weather, Bong ecstatically dances in the rain. After a few hours, the lake reaches its capacity. Bong proceeds to the lake's shores, where she etches her name onto a cornerstone. Subsequently, she submerges herself in the lake, mirroring the initial sequence that marked the beginning of the movie. Upon awakening, Bong finds himself in a hospital room with an officer asleep nearby. Quietly, he attempts to slip away, but the officer awakens, initiating a swift chase. Bong manages to elude the initial officer, but soon finds himself cornered by two more. In a state of desperation, Bong leaps from a considerable height, escaping his pursuers as he races through the streets. Eventually, he seeks refuge in a public library, where he searches for a history book. To his delight, he locates a publication recounting the history of the Joseon dynasty. A smile crosses his face as he realizes that he has become an integral part of history. However, his nostalgic reverie is abruptly interrupted when the pursuing officers reach the library. Bong prepares for another escape attempt, but the officers explain that their intention is not to apprehend him. Rather, the present has been profoundly altered due to his time travel to the Joseon era. Now, he is not a fugitive being chased by the police. Instead, they are there to protect him. Bong hastens to a nearby computer and verifies their claims online, ultimately discovering the truth about the transformation of history and the present. The movie concludes with Bong standing on a street, conveying a positive message about how a small alteration in the past can profoundly influence the future. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.